All right, good morning. Week 3, we actually had snow. I didn't get out to take as many pictures as I wanted to. But I was at a wonderful workshop. I was instructing on drawing over the weekend, so I still had fun. Um, but I did manage to take a picture before I left on Saturday morning of the the sun was still pretty low, so there's some really nice long shadow lines in the snow. So I really like that. So we're gonna work on that today. But first thing, I am not using UART today. I'm going to be using Pastel Matte. I
Uh,
know a lot of folks did. I've noticed a lot of people that do hyperrealism use it, which was one of the reasons I bought it. I bought it a couple of years ago. I used it um, for one small portrait. It is definitely different, but I just want to kind of test it out and play with it with you guys. Um, you know, I do love UART, but it is nice to see what else is out there. And if other people are using something different, it might be nice to know how it feels. And it's been a while since I've tried it, so I'm going to give it another try. I will probably still try to paint like I normally paint on UART, and I'll discuss how things are different. Um, from what I understand, this is a cork base. That's what somebody said, but I don't see that written on the package anywhere. Let me try and find the English version. They have a lot of languages on the back here explaining things. Oh, here it is. A new concept. You don't need fixative. Able to apply multiple layers. Smooth. It is on cardboard, so it's stiffer than UART. For the smaller sizes, I don't necessarily think it needs to be uh, mounted on anything. I think it's probably okay because it is a little bit stiffer, but the larger you get, you probably still want to have it mounted. I do think it, if I recall correctly, was a little bit more expensive than UART in the pack. But it kind of makes sense because again, it's on a kind of a card stock, like a heavier card stock. It does say that it can take wet underpaintings. So um, you can certainly try it with alcohol washes. But today I picked the pack that I have is Buttercup, Maize, Dark Gray, and Light Gray. I picked the dark gray, which
yeah.
seems kind of like a medium gray. It's not really dark, dark. So um, that's what I'm going to use today. I'm not going to do an underpainting because I chose the dark color. If I had chosen the maize, which is really very yellow, much more yellow than UART. It looks like UART on the page, but in real life, it's very, very yellow. And the buttercup is just a brighter yellow. Anyway, I picked gray. That's what we're going with. I'm going to test things like how it handles the eraser when I draw. So I'm going to erase some lines and see how that goes. See how it feels to move things around with my fingers. See how it feels if I type insulation for blending. Stuff like that is what we'll do. So let me
What size are you using?
I've got nine
Are
by
you going to use
12.
the whole sheet?
Yeah, we're just gonna do a 9 by 12. One painting
Oh,
today. So let me get
okay.
this camera set up. Good morning. I think that's Maureen because it says Todd. Good morning. Um, all right, I'm going to switch my camera.
Yeah, it's me. Okay.
Okay. Glad it worked out. Is it going? What's wrong? There we go. All right, so I have it taped because as I said, I didn't mount it to anything. It is a nice card, kind of a stock, but that of course means I have to tape it down. I didn't bother the hinge tape where you tape the back of it because I don't know, maybe that works. Maybe it's thick enough to not have to deal with the bump from the line. So That's my driveway. Um, on down the road there. So that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna grab a paintbrush for a straight line. We have all these beautiful angles, nice angles. So make sure you have your information available. Think about the things you want to keep in it or without. Or wait, I guess I should ask, is everybody doing the same one as me, or did you choose different ones? No.
Same.
Same?
I'm doing same.
Okay. All right, cool.
I'm doing same.
Wonderful. So in situations like these, where you see my big pine tree that hangs down in front of the road here, it's blocking some of the houses, but you can kind of see the houses. You can kind of see a roof line, but you don't have a lot of information. I've painted similar versions of this scene before, and I will tell you, I usually paint this roof and just a hint of a house, but this house usually gets knocked out. And then I really can't see the other houses at all. I know they're there, but I can't really see them. I can see it looks like somebody's car right here. That's not going to be a car. I'm not going to put a car. I'm certainly not going to put that car. And I may or may not do fire hydrant because it's so little. So it may or may not make it there. But I do like the nice angles of the street, the little hills that the snow piles make. Um, their driveway, they have these little planter boxes here that are raised. So a little line can, we can easily read that. So, and I do like the telephone pole, the utility pole. So that might make its way in. But, but that's a decision you can wait on. Because we need to get the sky in first anyway, once we start painting. So these nice thin little lines will certainly be well towards the end of things. Things that we're going to be careful for, the sun. When it's this bright white hot, part of that is, well, actually it was bright white hot in person too. So save your tooth for your yellows and your whites. Don't put anything underneath it. If you're doing an underpainting today, which feel free if you are, if you're doing an underpainting, make sure that you don't have color underneath. That yellow and the white really like its own special place on the tooth to get you the most impact. Okay, lots of nice shadows here. So how much of that will get in there, because that's the actual driveway right there. So I like the little hill, but I'm not sure how that's gonna fit. How I'm gonna do that. It might get cropped a little bit to like right there. Maybe that's what I'll do. Let's go ahead and crop that because this is longer skinnier anyway this way. I'm not messing with proportions. So take a look, take a minute, take a look and see what you like and don't like, and think about the decisions that you're making. If you're taking out a house, what's going to live there? Is it going to be just a bunch of trees? Is it going to be something flat? So if I take out this house here, it's just going to look like a generic tree line of some sort back there. Nice and blurred, nothing specific. So, oh, this fence causes people trouble too. It's got yard waste bags in front of it. So feel free to keep the fence. If you keep the fence, you can have the nice shadows that it creates. If you don't keep the fence, you have a little more of an open field to play with. And you don't really have to think too terribly hard about what goes there because it can just be more of a direct sunlight kind of coming through. So, all right, let's get started here. I'm going to start replacing the roadway. Can you even see my line? Yeah, you can pretty much see it. So if anybody took the cityscape 1-point perspective, that's pretty much in play here, right? We're finding our vanishing point off into the distance. We know the road is equally distance or equally wide apart, but we have a vanishing point. So now it looks like a really long elongated triangle. And then the little vanishing point is kind of more of just a blur. So it's not really a reality kind of a thing. I'm going to draw a little, I'm going to move it a little bit too. A little space for my sun. I'm going to make the sun blurb bigger than it is. I would rather have more yellows and oranges and whites in this area and come in on it than have to push those bright colors out. Let's see. What else actually needs to be drawn? So these big branches that come out, this is a good exercise with trees because greens are so strong. So that'll be fun later. I'm going to simply, I'm probably not going to make the tree as big as it is. Just going to give kind of a hint of the overall blob of the tree itself. It technically has a coming about right here. I'm going to worry about that later. The trunk itself might not make its way into the final painting because it's just like a weird solid line there. I'm testing the erasing. It seems to go pretty well. Rubbing, sometimes when you're on UART and you rub away, the pencil rubs and this doesn't seem to rub away the pencil. So far, it doesn't seem to be digging into it either, which is nice. Right, so get a little roof line in. Probably make the roof a little bigger than it is. Take up more space. A nice little chimney. I'm going to move their chimney over so it doesn't go off the edge of the page. So it's one of those things too. I know what their house looks like, so I can find some of the lines. If you can't find the lines, just ignore it. It's not even necessary. So I'm going to exaggerate some of those hills there. I'll put their driveway there, but it might not live like it needs to. I'm just gonna give some other hints. I'm gonna put the line of the other house, but it might not be included. I don't know because there's so little hard lines for it. I can make that decision a little later. It's very muted living where it is. Based on the way the sunlight's hitting it. There's a nice little hill right here. From years ago with all the septic tanks and whatnot. A lot of these houses have a little hill in their front yard. It's a little pile from the tree bed there. Okay. I'm going to place the telephone pole. Oh, I'm moving it over based on my drawing. Well, wait, hold on. Nope, I'm going to move it this way. I'm moving it because I made the house a little bigger than it is, right? And then I put it and I moved their driveway a little bit. Gotta get that correct angle. I'm just placing the bulkiest of the information on that pole. Nothing else really needs to happen right now. Um, I'm going to go ahead and place the fence, but I think I'm going to move some things. You know, it's not quite a big rolling field, but this is close enough to a big enough field that we can play with where things go. I want to have room to make my marks. My fence does go up a little bit. That is the trick. I've been painting so big for so long that painting small is more challenging than it used to be. I used to work on 4x6 pieces of paper and go out plein air painting, and now it feels very cumbersome to do that. I'm gonna make that be the hill there up against the fence, and then that way I can have those lines coming through. Okay, so when I get to the big bulbous field, I'll be cutting out some of it, but it's okay. All right, so take your time. I'm going to give you guys a few more minutes to get settled with your line drawing. Again, just a very generic marking of where these big branches are. They do have a nice swoop to them, so it'll be nice to put the snow on top of the branches. When we start to fill in the color is where things get a little interesting because it's backlit by the sun and you have some glowy colors in the front and we got that heavy dark evergreen sitting there. So we'll get to that soon enough. But go ahead and finish up your drawing. While you guys are doing that, I'm going to start picking out colors, which in my brain will go one way and on the paper will go another because I'm using dark paper.
Let's see.
Go grab some more pastel. Yes, I'm cheating. I just grabbed my big trays of turquoise and blue. Just want more options. Because I have a feeling once I get making marks on this paper, it's going to be lots different. Okay. All right. As usual, we need to start what's furthest away, what sits behind. And for me and for you, if you're doing this, it's the sky. That's really, really light. And that sky has that nice bit of really bright, almost white turquoise based on, that's better, based on time of day, which let's say this was probably like 7:45 maybe. So I'm using a nice bright turquoise, which I can put towards all of this, add a little bit of that nice creamy goldeny yellow tone. This also helps, you know, when we have this time of day for these snow paintings and we can change up the color of the sky just a little bit. It's always nice because it can differentiate sky and snow a little better for us. All right, so in terms of how this feels and how it's a little bit different, it's definitely, it's, but it's not grabbing in the same kind of way. Obviously, there's the grit's not really a grit, it's kind of a just a softness to it. Before I add too many more colors, I want to see what that feels like to blend, just to kind of settle it into the paper. So first I'll try my finger. That is doing nothing. Got the pipe installation. All right, so what I remembered the last time and what I have said is I felt like you have to do a lot of front end loading. Like you have to really kind of pile it on to get it to do something. So I'm with that impression. And I have to pile it in there a little bit. Let me look for a nice, see the little pink, little creamy peachy pink. This is going to be a good color in the snow as well. So I don't want to lose that. So this is more of an actual pink. So now that I have multiple colors, I'm going to use my pinky in a circular motion, see how that moves together. I don't want to start pushing too hard. I don't want it to just be driven into the paper. I just kind of want to go forth a little gently. Adding more of a blue turquoise in there. I feel like it's a little effort than normal. This amount of sky, again, it could just be the fact that I'm not used to it, right? So I have my standard pattern in order of events with UART, so this is just a little bit different for me. Ready. It actually should be a little bit lighter. I can go a little bit lighter. Top there. So putting this quick scumbly layer right on top, it's holding really nicely. It doesn't feel like the tooth is full, even though I've put a lot of effort into putting more color down. So that can be a good thing. All right. So I'm pretty good with that bright sky. Okay. So order of events, order of events. Typically, I would start marking in that big heavy pine tree. I'm gonna wait a second. I'm gonna get the sun put in there so I don't forget and paint much or too close to it. So I want to get that bright white hot yellows in there. And I will put something close to a white in the middle. And I'm looking at all my yellows going, they look a little greenish. Want to do that? No, that's pretty lemony. I'll stick with that. All right, so gonna add some nice bright, almost perfectly white in there. Gonna add, yellows are always so weird. Sometimes I love them, a lot of times I don't. Ooh, so now I just grabbed a Soho brand, so that's that. I want to see how that plays on here. Not that bad. I'm putting it right on top of something. Let me see how it feels by itself. Not terrible. Some extra bright white in there. It's really kind of cool. It's hard to interpret everything that's happening with the ball of sun down there. But there is a lot happening. So I want to kind of capture brightness before I paint over it. So I'm going to add, it's a little dark, but that's okay. This is a little bit brighter orange right now. But you can kind of see that the way the sun's coming off of the little pine needles that are hanging down, it has that orangey kind of a glow to it. I'm going to keep this color out because I don't want to forget about it. I am going to turn down a little bit with that. So I don't want to fill the tooth yet because this is where that dance begins with that tree, with the heavy pine there. So this paper might actually come and be a little bit more of an advantage with the greens and the pine. Because normally the pig most green pastels is really just, I don't know what it is. It's something that's super soft and a little bit of pigment goes a really, really long way. So we'll see how it acts now. Everything is in deep dark shadow. I might do a little bit of red violet and a little bit of eggplant. A little bit of eggplant. I don't want to go too heavy. I don't want to fight the purple when it comes time. But I will place a little bit. So this is eggplant. I'm not going to get close to the edges of the sky with the eggplant. I'm just putting it down so I can have some depth to the tree being backlit like that. And it really doesn't grab a whole lot of it. It really leaves, I'm giving it a good little shove and it just grabs just a little bit. to go with a little bit of red violet just for some representation of some of that light that's starting to come through in a couple spots. Kind of jumping around, going back and forth with the colors that I have in my hand, the sticks that I have in my hand.
Renee, would you go back for a second and talk about that sun or that glow that you have?
Yeah. Anything in particular, or just like,
Well, I was working on the sky when you were talking about it, so I was kind of looking at it, but at the same time trying to work on the sky.
right, right.
What? So
Well,
it's a whitish color.
yeah, so the middle is like that white hot from the sun. So it's almost a white. When it's in my hand, it's really hard to tell. It's got a little bit of a touch of yellow in it, but if you go for your white, and then I have a nice lemony yellow around the edges, and then
Okay.
some peachy pink to soften some of that lemon, right? And then this
Okay.
brighter orangey color that I kind of toned down a little bit with that peachy pink.
Okay.
So it creates that nice little glow over there.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, I'm gonna look for. I'm gonna test a couple things out. So the street, even though it's just pretty much a sheet of ice at this point uh, in the storm, so I'm gonna go with more of a lavendery kind of a feel. I don't want it to look like more snow. It is something different. So I'm gonna try this. This is a nice lavender just to get it started. I think it can go. I'm just gonna start with this. Nice directional mark. Add things to it. Again, that's a lavender. It's really light. I think it's especially really light on camera. It does have a bit more purple feel to it in real life. Um, I can add to that. There's some nice, the actual roads showing through. So I can, as I start to add stuff to it, I'm going to take this as a deeper lavender. Start to add a little bit. And I will certainly add blues to it later, but for right now, I'm just kind of placing it. Kind of funny, I said I was going to work more on the tree branches, and I'm already avoiding them. Just kind of smoothing it out. I just want to see what it really just, it definitely feels different when you try to blend things with your fingers. You can't, it doesn't move as far. It definitely kind of holds it in place, especially those lighter beginning layers. It's just kind of holding it. Just stepping back and looking to see. Layering in of that peachy pink right on top of that lavender, closer down to the sun to see how that feels. Kind of like that a little bit. I'm going to put that heavier color. Lighter one again. Definitely feels so much different trying to figure out how much tooth you have because it's not sand, so the tooth feels different. All right. Oh, keep an eye out. I'll be doing a newsletter soon. I don't know if it'll come out today or Friday. Next month is landscapes with an emphasis on trees. Different types of trees. The first week will be bunch of short lessons, like no real full painting, but we'll do some short lessons on painting different types of trees first. All right, let's get some green. So for this, I kind of have to, use my imagination based on the fact that this is my tree. When we're looking at photography, your photograph will always darken your darks a lot more than what it really is. So you have to, oh, that got really bright. You have to take mental note when you're taking a photograph as to what you're actually looking at so that it's not completely skewed and distorted how dark the camera makes it. This isn't necessarily the green I wanted, but I might have to go find something else. It'll be interesting for me to see how this paper reacts to me trying to shove a sky hole. Like once I get all of this settled, how it's going to feel to try and pop a sky hole in there to break up the mask. Closer to the color right now.
What paper is that?
This is pastel matte.
Okay.
Nice big dark blob. All right. I'm gonna try to move that a little bit. Okay. Pipe insulation isn't doing much for me. I will say that.
No,
Yeah.
true.
It's just it's funny because I'm so used to, I have myself so trained to go super light in the beginning, light in pressure, so that I don't feel the tooth. But in this paper, I feel like I have to do the exact opposite. Otherwise, I'm not going to get anywhere. So that's weird. Weird to me. So I have a big, ominous blob of dark.
Oh, that's pretty.
I think my next move is I'm going to start to break it up with some sky holes. I'm going to see how that behaves before I try to put the snow on it. All right, so I have some of those bright colors. All right, well, it's sitting right on top, so that's good. I do want to get a little more color in there. Use that darker kind of turquoise color so it doesn't look like I'm just throwing white in there. All right, so that's breaking up pretty nicely. Let's see. Let me grab some of those. Thank you. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm not it looked too much like snow instead of sky holes. That's my first concern with this. And I would be concerned no matter the paper. Um, so let me see. I'm going to place or attempt to place some bushes so I can start to set snow on. I'm just going to roll a couple of them out so I have some place to go. This tree has a nice little like swoopy thing going. The branches are really big and they swoop down. And then everything hangs from the branch. So you really can normally see a lot of the actual branch. I don't want to go crazy, but I do want some place to set some of that snow. Just thinking about some events here. So technically should be working on what's going behind that tree first. So I'm going to take a break from the tree for a second because there's stuff that sits behind the trees. So this whole section here where the house is or may or may not be, I need to get this ground settled so things can hang on top of it. So I'm going to leave my little blob of a tree there and work on the ground on the right-hand side of the street there. So let's change my brain set here and figure that out, right? Lots of shadowed snow, but it looks much more on the turquoise side than the blue side. The foreground snow is very, very blue. The across the street snow is a little more turquoise. So let me test some colors. It's deeper than the sky turquoise, except right here. That's pretty close. Oh, okay. Okay. Let's for red violet. This is a little more on the red side. Let me get that in. Putting a little bit of that in the tree for when I kind of put that glow, that orangey glow in there. You can see it a little bit on the camera. It's not too terribly bright. So I'm thinking about the shrubs here and whatever this little glob is made right next to the sun. You can tell it's trees and bushes, but you really can't identify one in particular set of bushes or trees or anything. So it's just kind of living as one entity of obscurity. So, but I do see the specific shrubs here with snow on top. I do need to get a little bit of that depth in there too. Let's see. Again, in the deep lavender family, this is not eggplant. It is a little bit of lavender. So it looks like I don't have a second house in there. It's going to be shrubs. I'm not really that concerned. Put a little bit of their here. The tip of my pastel is not where I thought it was. I hate that when you think you have a nice sharp corner and it's in the wrong spot because you didn't realize. So just a hint of some kind of a bush living there. Doesn't look like much on screen because I put they have a porch and a carport right next to each other, and then the house is dark. So I put the darkness of all those things sitting there, so it looks a little wonky right now. Okay, let me find the right turquoise to start with. And again, turquoise can have that weird gray kind of a feel. I kind of made this whole thing look like it's a giant hill sitting right in front of their house. So that's what I'm going with, right? Giant hill. The really heavy, bold marks to represent the way the yards are coming out. And I had to push hard because of the paper, really. I'm going to put that rooftop in there. And I can add to it. Now at least those black blobs don't look like just black blobs. Okay. So this blue that I picked up is basically the same exact value as the turquoise. You're probably not going to see it make much of a difference at all. But for me, in real life, it's breaking things up a little bit. Just kind of dancing this glue right on top of where I said I was going to have shrubs. Not really defining them, but just starting to give a little dark dance there. Great. So let's see. there's a little bit of like, pink and lavender hanging out on this little hillside. A little bit right on top. A bit of a glow there. Grab some of lavender too. Lavenders are funny. You think you have the right version, and then it's really not. But just want to get some of that lavender in the shadow shapes. Oops, that's not good. All right, now I think I'm going to get into some of those deeper blues. It's not as deep as I thought it was. Isn't that funny how that goes? Feel like you grab something really bold and it barely did it. Just lacing some of those beginnings of shadows. They might stay that way. It might be the way it stays, but for right now, I do like the way, now that I'm into the snow part, I do like the way that it's layering for me. And wait to make the decision about those fences over there. I'm gonna leave that be. Looking at pinks right now. Probably gonna lighten the pink up, but I keep seeing more and more pink being reflected in the road and such. But the pink from the sky is super pale. That's what I just put in my hand now. So it's super pale. Quite doing what I wanted it to. Oh, I know what I want to test on this paper. How you wipe things away, right? Haven't felt the need to just yet, but I feel it coming on. I feel like I'm gonna wipe something away really soon. So I will use my first tried and true method of using a stiff bristled paintbrush. Let's see how that goes. All right. It takes away a little bit, but the color's still there just like it would be on UArt. Let me see if I can erase it away. Yep. I can erase it away too. So those things still work very similarly. Erasing and using your paintbrush. What's everybody doing?
Oy.
Okay. Yeah. It's 10 o'clock. I plugged in the internet like I normally do to hardwire it, and it's showing that like I'm not on plugged in all the way. So hopefully there's no problems, but it's always weird when it does that. Okay. So this is going to be some more trees. That's where I was putting that empty or that other house, but I've changed. Let's see. So I'm doing that little drag up just to get those little tiny little trees that are hanging. Little wispy tree line in the back. It's not bad. It's different than the UArt. How, when we just kind of flick up. There we go. Kind of defined their front yard a lot differently than what it is. So I was just using one of those softer brands, and it just kind of made a little bit of a jumbled mess. My hand is getting quite full of all the sticks that I keep collecting. All right, I'm going to step back for a minute. And in all honesty, honesty, I don't think I need anything extra for that I just built there. So I'm gonna go ahead and put in the utility pole, which is gonna cut off a little bit, so I can make a decision here. Nah, I'll keep it where it's at. I was gonna say I can try and like leave it behind the house, but that wouldn't make any sense. So I'm gonna leave it in front. I do notice too that I don't leave a lot of dust in my tray much anymore unless I'm using really cheap brands, but there's not a lot of dust at all in my tray. So I'm thinking that the paper's holding it differently. Better, maybe better. All right. So I will take eggplant. Well, eggplant. I'll take eggplant. And you're gonna see my big head for a second here. I'm gonna come in on the side so I can see where I'm putting my stick down. Kind of rode that head on there. We'll soften things. I don't like to just draw or just paint like solid, stiff objects. Even houses have a little bit of softness. Yeah, there's some things. There's that. So now I can also pretend that there's snow hanging out on the side of it too. We get a little bit of those knobs sitting there. Some of the other things on the pole, again, I'm waiting for a little bit longer before I put the lines coming out of them. But, you know, it looks like something sticking out here. Just put it in with your pencil. And then if it's still too light for your taste, you can take either a black or the eggplant like I'm doing and just kind of touching it on there. Really, going crazy. I am not an electrician, so I would have no idea what everything really is. So I'm just kind of guessing at general shapes, right? So I see that, we do still have like all of these empty tree branches over here. We can make that decision as time goes on if you want to add them or not, if you want to include them. I haven't made up my mind just yet. I think some of them will be a good thing. I'm just testing some things out with my pencil. So pencil, that's a lot different. Carving things in with your pencil. When you're on UART, the grit of the sand picks it up and picks up that graphite a bit stronger than it does here. Kind of loosey-goosey. All right, I'm going to soften that hole a little bit. All right, it's a little heavy. I'll give it a little snow pile too. Yeah. Break it up a little bit so it's not so heavy there. All right. Take a minute and step back if you haven't done so already. Take a break, do a little stretch, get your coffee or tea or water refreshed. I'm going to pause for a second. Pause the recording. All right. So I'm going to put a couple more dark marks in here with my eggplant, just to, we don't want it to be completely flat. Although, once we start going, it's going to be more snow and that brighter reflection in there. All right, I think what I would like to do next is place some of the snow in the tree. That is a little bit of a concern of mine with how this paper is going. Actually, first, hold on a second. Just blocking in some of those wintry burnt sienna kind of colors and oranges. One was super soft and did a lot, and one did nothing. Let me see what I did there. I may or may not take that out. I was starting to put in a little bit of trees back here. See, this is what gets a little tricky, are these tree branches that come out into the background when they're, so like if I were to go ahead and do this one, very gently rolling, it's a little bit of a harder stick. I think it's a Rembrandt, so it's nice and a little bit. So I'm just doing this, the big main branches of the tree trunk here. Very gently, because we're not going to get in every single little tiny branch. Start to place it there. Now let me take start to just well then. Just kind of tapping. This is a Rembrandt. I wasn't expecting it to tap so well. Just kind of give a little bit of hint. Might make the tree just a little bit bigger than it is. I have a love-hate relationship with wintertime trees, you know? Sometimes I think, oh, they're great. You can just keep rolling little tiny branches and da 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 da. But then sometimes it just gets to be too much and you just feel like it looks a little cheesy. Well, I'm not sure about all that. What I just did there. Oh, see, now this is not fun. So taking off any of what I just did as crisp and clean as it is on yours. So, not sure how that's going to go later. Might have a big old boo-boo to correct over here. Mm. Think about that. Now, somebody was saying, one of the artists that I know was, they use pastel mat a lot, and they had made a comment about taking rubbing alcohol to wash off a painting, which on UArt, if I use rubbing alcohol, I'm setting and staining the paper, and I wash it off with water. So I don't know if this paper is different. I kind of like how this is going. I don't know that I'll be washing it off, but I will be testing that at some point. Washing off the paper, seeing how that works. All right, so I'm gonna start fluffing in some snow on the tree. Start with the branch up top. Some nice colors. So I'm just using just an up and down kind of a shimmy to work on creating the piling the snow. And my branches are not exactly like the branches in the picture, so I know that. That piece of tape. To make a decision if I want that tree branch to fall down into the view of the street like it is on the photograph. I don't know if I'm going to go there. So I've just used one deeper blue thus far to get some of these globs of snow. I'll start to work in some turquoise as well, just to give it some variety. Looking at my stick, there's not a lot of transfer of the color that's underneath. Like normally I would have to really concentrate on remembering to wipe my pastel down in between marks. This seems to be not the case for this. But it's also, the coverage is different. So I'm gonna have to go back over anyway, whether, you know, even if I wasn't gonna use turquoise, I'd have to go back over with something to get it to cover. Let's see. What I want. Does nothing. All right, that's interesting. I tried to put a unison down on top and it literally did nothing. Huh. Oh, yeah. Trying to find something that's going to. What is going on? Maybe it's just that spot. Hmm. Interesting. Now things are getting a little squirrely, I have to admit. What happened here? Hmm. It looks better on the camera than it does in life. In life, it's a lot mushier.
Good on the camera.
Yeah. So this one can only be seen online. Period. All right, let me get some other. I took some of that brighter orangey peach that I started off with and just gently drug it in a couple of places where the light would be reflecting off of the bottom of the pine needles there. And then I made a tree out of it and highlighted in this tree. I like how that's working out. So don't be afraid of putting some of those pinks and peachy pinks in places you don't think they necessarily belong. Because maybe they do. All right. I think, let's see. A little bit of a pull to some of this because, like I said, those little pine needles, they really just hang straight down. That's the type of tree it is. They don't go in all directions. They literally are just long and heavy and they lay. Um, I'm gonna re-emphasize some. branches again. In places, not everywhere. All right. Wonder. So, you know, sometimes when you want kind of a glow, you have to put something super dark and not to put something light on top to get a glow. And I think that's where I'm going to go with some of this snow. It got really dull and mushy here. So maybe I put something crazy down and then put something light on top, it'll work better. So I'm going to try that in a corner here. Well, that's not really crazy. It's just a nice blue. So hold on a second. It is kind of helping though. Right, so I've reached the limit of the Soho. Can't make any mark on top anymore with the Soho brand. I guess if I had all Soho, then it would be different, but that's gray. Interesting. Yeah, the brand experiment is definitely interesting. How the different brands are reacting.
What a mess.
What a mess. Who's
Yeah.
having trouble?
Me, Anna.
Anna, what happened?
It's just, like you said, it just graded down and I don't know. Maybe it won't be so obvious when the foreground comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really struggling with, I keep trying to work on this little section right here, and all it's doing is just getting muddier and muddier, and it's not taking anything. So let me scrape it down. Let me see if that helps me.
You scraping it down with a paintbrush? I wasn't looking.
Yeah, with
Oh,
a
no.
paintbrush, with my stiff bristled paintbrush. All right, so now it took the blue again. Let me see if I can get that glowy turquoise. Well, it's better. The paintbrush gave me a little more life. I'll leave that. Make some more shadowy snow back here.
Ugh.
All right, now I'm gonna focus on the ground. I think I've ignored the bottom half of my paper for long enough. Take a step back, see how it's going. All right. I'm kind of one of the reasons I've ignored the bottom half of the paper is the fence, because I'm probably just gonna ignore it for a minute and paint over it and then come back to it. Let's see. Sorry for my big head in the way. I'm gonna create this person again. They have a little hill. Create that little hill over there. Make it more dramatic than what it is. And the same thing for this little hill in my yard. Starting a little bit, I'm using a different blue than what looks to be on the printout. And I'm doing that on purpose because my printer, blue jeans look like electric blue. They're just it really goes crazy on blue. So I'm more concerned about value and consistency within. So if that's where you're at, just don't stress about matching your printout. Just worry about getting light and shadow.
Mm.
The negative space. Now I can start to build in some of the lights again. So what's on the ground is a little bit lighter than what's on the road. I can go a little bit brighter with those initial marks. Lighten them up even more. This is that peachy pink, or no, the peachy cream from the sky. I will add some more colors to it, like some lights and some pinks and things like that, once I get going. But here we go again with filling the front load of all that paper here. It does have a nice little That was the other thing about this particular image that I liked was the little snow pile in the front, how it had the front, you know, the little light edges and the shadowed behind it. And I don't have as much space in the way I drew this, so I'm not getting them all in there. This is the pink from the sky. I'm just working it right with that creamy kind of color. Trying to use directional marks too. So this little pile of snow here up front, um, instead of going completely side to side, try to build it up as I'm adding to it. And I'm just kind of pushing a little bit more than I would just to get a tooth going there. I feel like it's a workout today. Thanks. So, once again, my hand is filling up with all the colors and setting them down. This is that white hot from the early stages, the sun. Not that it's doing much for me right now. Good thing it's snow. We don't have to have exact straight lines because I would not be getting them at all. I want to try and move some things. I don't know why. I know it's not going to move, but here I am trying to move things. And it's funny. It's just like a habit to things aren't quite working. Let's move it around. Let's soften it up and see what happens. So I'm just using my pinky. I just want to try and catch a break from having to push more pastel on. Take a step back. ahead and lace the fence a little more solidly. I'm gonna, all right, not too much with my pencil. All right, so I gotta go in. I don't want to use eggplant, but something close. Again, I gotta come in from the other side so I can see a little bit. We don't want to make the fence too, like, again, over the top side, you know, because nothing else in the painting is really over the top solid. Now I can pile some snow on top of it and place it. One thing at a time, right? Ready. So I'm just kind of blurring some things out a little bit. I don't want it to be, again, just like the utility pole. Now that's what I didn't have, was this medium blue in there. So let me work with this for a second. Get some of the shape of the little hills in here. So this lighter blue is working nicely up against snow that has a little light on it. So I can push that right up to the edges and soften it down a little bit at a time. So I'm looking at this section right here. I need to stand back for a minute. So in the photo, this is my neighbor's light pole. And then over here, they tried to put bushes to match this neighbor's bushes. And then you've got the, their mailbox. So it's creating, all those things are creating different shadows and different breaking points. So I need to decide how this looks and if I need to break it up with the driveway or if I should just let it be. If I break it up with the driveway, it's not going to match the photograph and location, which is fine. But I just have to be, I think I am going to break it up with the driveway because I don't like the way it's reading. So I'm going to break it up, take my chances. Again, sorry for my big head. Just put this over here. And it's funny because I'm coming over here so I can see better, and I don't have reading glasses, and I really need them. So as I get closer to it, I still can't see what I'm doing. So look like there. We'll put some pretend problems down here. There we go. Let's. All right, it's time to step back. If you haven't stepped, I'll do it now. See where it's going. I think I liked my paper well before I added the bottom snow. I have a lot of work to do down there. Lots and lots of work.
Renee, it's
Yes.
Gillette. This is how far I got with this. Just take a look.
Oh, wow. Nice. Okay.
I don't
Hold on.
understand. It looks like a tree, which amazes me.
Hold on a second. I'm going to pause. All right. I'm going to keep going here. Now it's like I want to light. It looked so bright up against the gray, and now it looks really dull. Now that I have the nice bright blue. Isn't that funny how that happens? Let me add. What, nothing here? That pink did nothing? I don't want it to dull out. I just want it to be brighter again. That's interesting. I really liked that spot before, and now I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna keep trudging ahead here, right? It's funny, this color, this is one of those original ones from the sky, and it looked like so pale and barely any color, and now you can really see that it's yellow. So here I am painting yellow snow. So, I will put the pink on top of it in just a second, but I was trying to get some of that light. Just realized I don't have the fire hydrant in, so I don't need to worry about that shadow that it's casting. Not so far in mine. So that's the other thing, if you're cutting things out like I am, just make sure you're not putting shadows in to represent things that aren't there. I'm gonna step back again. My hand is full once again of all these colors. Back it up. Well, I'm happier than I was a few minutes ago. It's not quite as dramatic in value scale as the photograph is. So I'm gonna fuss with that for a little while longer. Let's see. Ooh, it's 11 o'clock. Today went fast. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I guess that's what happens when you paint one whole painting. Let me focus on this foreground. Let me see, get beware of doing what I'm doing. I'm looking at different colors. If you think you find a new color that you like, you got to remember it's going to have to belong in multiple locations in the painting. So if you add something with a completely different feel and vibe to it, like it's a little extra green or it's a little extra blue, then you'll need to throw it in a couple other places in your painting, such as in the shadows across the street as well as in front where you're adding it. So I just threw this other blue in here. So I'm throwing it in to a couple of different places. So it makes sense that it's in the foreground. Like that one spot on my paper is cursed. Every time I try to do something to it, it's like, right. Well, I certainly think I will have to keep trying using the paper a little more to make my final judgment call. I don't know if I have a final judgment call just yet on this paper. There are things that I liked about it, and there are things that I certainly did not. And I think what I didn't like just comes with experience in how to manipulate the paper. And that experience I have yet to gain. So I will certainly to work on that. And I have a whole pad of paper to do it with. Okay. Ooh, I didn't do the power lines yet. So I'll work on that. Get those in there. I initially always go with
Can I see?
just pencil. I think I'll start with the pencil.
Your tea time is what?
Much of a mark to make. So
9:15.
far, the pencil hasn't been making a lot of mark.
After I have lunch, I'll have a beer. You know, yeah. More than likely.
Okay, bye. Have fun.
Let me
Drive
see. I'm
safe.
gonna
Hit them
do-
straight.
I'm hoping.
That's not bad on there. I'll leave that. All right, so let me.
Oh, I should have done it with pencil. Damn.
And that one comes out just a little bit. The only thing I would say, especially with how this paper is going with mistakes, is try and be pretty decisive about your line making. I don't know how forgiving it's really going to be to things. like, so it looks like there's another big fat line that comes down. So now, it comes into, lines going into people's houses and, how many lines do you include? That's up to you. I think I might just, I might throw another one in. This one's pretty big that comes from here and it's kind of just going off. The neat thing about these lines is we can do more with them. We can have reflections come off of them. So what I'm going to do is tap very gently. I'm going to tap. What am I going to tap? What color? What color? Maybe like a nice gray. Do I have a nice gray? I can tap. I don't know. This is a Rembrandt. Just kind of going right along the line that I made. And then what I'm going to do is, it's not quite that dark. And then what I'm going to do is tap in some of that bright sunlight. Because some of them do actually have that reflection on it. So I want to go there. I want to get that in there. I want to see how that's going to look. This is a bit of a purple. It's not a good point. I'm just trying to avoid going to black or to charcoal or something like that, but I wanted the lines to have a little more heft to them. Sorry about my head. Hold on. And can't really see what I'm doing. Right, I'm gonna leave that like that before I really mess it up with my seeing this. All right, so now I'm gonna take that color, that initial orangey peach from the beginning that I made a couple of trees out of, and I'm gonna tap that on top of those power lines in a couple of spots to see, because had a little bit of snow. They all had a little bit of that glow on them anyway, a little bit of wet. Again, pardon my head. Doesn't have to be a big deal. A little bit. I feel like I got a workout in. I don't know about you guys.
Yep.
It's a good one though. Good workout. So now I'm just gonna kind of look around and see if I can add something without causing, you don't want to add something and then regret it. So sometimes leaving well enough alone is the best thing, but sometimes I want to see if there's more. I might just leave it be at this point. So down here in the foreground, I really just kind of layered the light that they would just kind of flow, you know, because we have that little bounciness there, you know, like you get with sand, but it's really hard to, well, the amount of time that it takes to specifically paint each little divot of shadow and light takes quite a while. So just kind of going up and around and have all that dark underneath, and then letting the light just kind of, the light pastel just kind of skim on top in a couple of places. Got those little bits of hills there. And I can use initial bright white to pop in a couple of places. It's not really popping all that well, but it's doing a little more. Oh, turquoise is too much. Happens a lot. I'm not going to touch it. Now I'm going to leave it be. I feel like it got blurry again. I'm going to try and refocus the camera. I'm going to put it in front, so it's going to get a little jumbly for just a second. Hold on. All right, so now it's a straight on view for you. I'm happy with it. So there we go. All right, I'm going to stop the recording here because that's all I have to show today. So we can have a discussion.